Senator from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with me today is Mr. John Lowry, who's one of my colleagues from my office, who's been a big help to me. Mr. President, as you know, when Vice President Harris and President Trump ran against each other for the presidency, one of the planks in President Trump's platform was that he was going to review every penny of federal government spending. Why did he say that? Why did he promise to do that? Well, first, there's a moral principle involved. People worked hard for their money, and when they give it to government, they're entitled to expect government to spend it efficiently. Number two, President Trump ran on that plank because of our debt. The federal debt is $36.5 trillion. You know, we throw these numbers around like a trillion, you know, we start to take them for granted. To give you a little perspective, this $36.5 trillion, it grows bigger by the second. It's going to increase. If we just keep doing what we've been doing, it's going to increase $1 trillion every 100 days. If we just keep doing what we've been doing, it's going to increase $10 billion a day. Today, nothing changed. We added $10 billion in debt.
Mr. President, I rise today with a sense of urgency, an urgency that grows stronger with each passing day as I watch the federal government dig deeper into the pockets of hardworking Americans, spending money not with prudence and purpose, but with carelessness and, in some cases, alarming political favoritism. This isn't just about dollars and cents, though the numbers I'm going to speak about today are staggering. This is about the soul of our government and whether we, as public servants, are truly accountable to the people we represent. I come from Louisiana, a place where people don't expect miracles from Washington, but they do expect common sense. They don't mind paying their fair share in taxes, but they do expect that money to be used responsibly, with integrity, and most importantly, with results. They expect their government to live by the same principles they teach their kids. Work hard, tell the truth, don't waste, and don't play favorites.
You know, we throw these numbers around like a trillion, you know, we start to take them for granted. To give you a little perspective, this $36.5 trillion, it grows bigger by the second. It's going to increase. If we just keep doing what we've been doing, it's going to increase $1 trillion every 100 days. If we just keep doing what we've been doing, it's going to increase $10 billion a day. Today, nothing changed. We added $10 billion in debt. That's also $417 million an hour. That's $6.9 million a minute. I think I've been talking about a minute. We just added $7 million to our debt. That's why the president wants to get rid of spending porn. The reaction here in Washington, Mr. President, has been breathtaking. I understand Washington is not exactly a slice of America. I get that. I understand that Washington is not normal. Normal in Washington, D.C. is a setting on the dryer. So I get all that. We're different in Washington. But the pushback to President Trump's effort through Mr. Musk and his team to reduce spending has just been extraordinary. I mean, people are barking and yelping and shrieking about it. They sound like the game room in a mental hospital. And I get that a lot of people don't like President Trump, and I get that many people don't like Mr. Musk, and I get that Mr. Musk is different. I kind of like that. I mean, I like different. You know, he's the sort of guy that would wear, I don't know, he'd wear Crocs to a wedding. I get that. I find it kind of refreshing. But nobody's ever called him a dummy. And he's found an incredible amount of waste and abuse of taxpayer money, what I call spending porn. I'm not going to repeat everything I repeated or I said the first time we talked about this, but Mr. President, it seems to me to be once again extraordinary that people are mad at President Trump and Mr. Musk for the process they're using, but no, they're not mad about the money being wasted. I mean, Mr. Musk, whether you like him or not, he's found, for example, $7.9 million we spent to teach Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gendered language. He's found money that was given to an NGO to empower the LGBT community in Armenia. He found $1.5 million that we spent to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem.
Unfortunately, what I'm going to lay out today is a direct violation of all those principles. And frankly, it's a symptom of a much bigger disease that has infected Washington for too long, a culture of reckless spending with little accountability and even less transparency. Let's zoom out for just a moment. As of today, the United States of America, the most prosperous and innovative country on earth, is also one of the most indebted. Our federal debt has ballooned to over $36.50 trillion. That number is so large, so abstract, that sometimes it doesn't even feel real. But let me put it in perspective. If we keep on the same path we're on now, we're adding $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. That's $10 billion every day. That's $417 million every hour. That's almost $7 million every single minute. I've been speaking for about 3 minutes, and in that time, the government has piled nearly $21 million more onto the backs of our children and grandchildren. Now ask yourself this, what do we have to show for it? Better roads? Better schools? Cheaper groceries? Lower energy bills? A more secure country? Sadly, no. In fact, in many areas, the quality of life for the average American has gotten worse, not better.
Now, that didn't stop the Biden administration from cutting a check, though. They took our money and gave power-forward communities in Rewiring America $2 billion. You want to know how we ran up $36 billion in debt? That's how. Now, the EPA announced in 2024 under President Biden, just 6 months after Power Forward was formed. Power Forward was formed, and 6 months later, President Biden and his team announced they were giving them $2 billion, and that's, as I said, that's B with a billion. Now look, I try to see the world from other people's bell towers as much as I can. But I cannot come up with, not for the life of me, with a single rational justification as to why the EPA under the Biden administration thought it was appropriate to give Power Forward and Rewiring America to brand new business or brand new nonprofits with no business experience, no accomplishments according to the IRS forms, and only $100 in the bank to give them $2 billion of taxpayer money, especially to the exclusion of every other qualified applicant for that money, if there were any other qualified applicants. We don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there was a competitive bid. Now, I do know that the EPA, under President Biden, gave Ms. Abrams' group, her two groups, $2 billion cash. In the grant approval, President Biden's EPA said that Power Forward had to allocate this money to get rid of stoves and to put in heat pumps. They had to allocate the money. They had to spend it in 21 days. Now that meant that Ms. Abrams' group Rewiring America, which was part of the larger group, likely received or was supposed to receive a check for $490 million, about a quarter of the total $2 billion, by the end of May 2024. And the other organizations, within 21 days, President Biden directed, were also supposed to receive their share of the money. But get this. President Biden and his team directed these NGOs to distribute $2 billion in 21 days. But the Biden administration also told Power Forward within 90 days to go take a course. You know what the course was? The name of the course was How to Develop a Budget. How to develop a budget. So President Biden gave Power Forward 21 days to spend the money, but said, you've got 90 days to go take a course about how to put together a budget. And why would anybody in the Milky Way give $2 billion of taxpayer money to two organizations that had just been formed?
Prices are up. Wages haven't kept pace. Families are stretching every dollar. And yet, Washington continues to spend like there's no tomorrow. Which brings me to the reason I'm standing here today. Because amid all this debt, in the middle of all this economic pain, an outrageous decision was made by the Environmental Protection Agency under President Biden's administration. A decision that should send chills down the spine of every taxpayer in this country. A decision that makes you stop and ask, are they even trying to be responsible anymore? Or have we just given up on the idea of stewardship altogether? Now, I want to be clear, I'm not here today to rehash partisan talking points. I'm not here to throw stones just for the sake of making noise. But I am here to raise a red flag, one that's been waving higher and higher over the past few months. Because what I've learned, and what I will lay out in the minutes to come, is that the Biden administration approved a $2 billion grant. Let me say that again, $2 billion of your tax dollars to an organization with no track record, no experience, and according to their filings, virtually no business infrastructure. This money wasn't granted to fix crumbling infrastructure or respond to a national emergency. No, this money, this enormous sum was handed out to a group of brand new nonprofits, one of which had only $100 in its bank account at the time it applied. And if that weren't troubling enough, one of the key players behind this organization is a prominent Democratic political figure, someone who has made a name for herself as a divisive voice, not a bipartisan one. Someone who has every right to participate in public life, but should not be anywhere near a $2 billion taxpayer handout. This isn't just reckless. This isn't just bad judgment. This is a case study in how cronyism, ideology, and a lack of oversight can turn good intentions, like promoting clean energy, into what I can only describe as spending porn. That's right, spending for the sake of spending, with no regard for who's footing the bill. Mr. President, Americans are generous. Americans are patient. But Americans are not blind. They know something's broken. They can feel it every time they go to the grocery store, every time they fill up their tank, every time they open a utility bill. And they have a right, a sacred right, to demand answers when their government appears to favor politically connected nonprofits over real accountability. This is not just about one grant. This is about the broader pattern we're seeing across this town, a pattern where rules are bent, standards are lowered, and taxpayer money is treated like monopoly cash in the hands of political allies. And frankly, Mr. President, the American people deserve better.